Hi, this is Daniel, and you're watching Unrivaled Investing, a no-hype, mission-focused channel trying to find you exceptional companies and unrivaled investments. A few months ago, several folks asked me, hey Daniel, can you take a look at Stable Road Acquisition Corp, or SRAC stock, which was supposed to be, this was a SPAC, merging with Momentus. Since then, a lot's happened, and in just the last 24 hours, the SEC has brought the hammer down. And so I felt like it would be worthwhile for me to do a quick review of my prior video. I'm not going to go into detail on Momentus and my thoughts about it, but I think there's a lot of lessons for investors in Momentus or speculators in Momentus to potentially learn to hopefully enable their journey to be richer in the future. And so let's actually go through what's going on here. So first, I did a video, as I already mentioned, I did a video on Momentus several months ago, and there were simply too many red flags for me. So it was a hard pass. And yeah, I try to take, I try to look at things with an optimistic bent, but there were just too many things that made me, at the conclusion of the video, say, you know what, I have to pass on this one. And their platform would say, hey, we're trying to create a platform, a low-cost platform to help, send satellites into their correct orbit. So we're going to deliver that platform. But they were promising and targeting too many things that I was just like, this is kooky dukes, like asteroid mining and mining some water and getting some, efficient energy. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I just viewed it as too many red flags when I looked at it. And the reality is not everyone liked it. Not everyone liked my video, where some folks were like, hey, if you had reviewed Amazon when some dude started an internet book company out of his garage, you probably would have had the same skepticism and not invested. How would that have worked for you? To get the 10 to 20x or more you keep talking about, it takes some vision in the story and the TAM, and you need to hold on. The tech is trademark and unrivaled and will address a massive upcoming need for payload transportation of satellites. And I feel like this is such an interesting point, and I want to get back to that at the end of this video as I go through, like, hey, what are some of the lessons that I think investors should potentially be learning from this? Another person commented, how he goes, when investing, I think management is key, and watching a conference by Mikhail, he seems to be on the ball with the business. He has a degree in physics, so he's qualified for the role. They've also got numerous very well established engineers. He has a brilliant interview on YouTube, and he's speaking a good game. Mikhail could be the plump Elon Musk. And then lastly, someone's like, look, this looks really cool. And while I'm going to go into sort of the important responses to each of those that you need to think about, I think, as your own investor on your own personal journey, broadly, and I think this is critical, that it's a universal theme for all comments, is that investing isn't about finding something that everyone likes. In reality, you have to, for every buyer, there's going to be a seller. And so when you're in a situation, you need to say, okay, this is the reason why I'm going to do it, or this is the reason why I pass. There will always be someone that's like, dude, you're a doofus for doing that. And there are plenty of people, as you can see from these comments, where people effectively were like, thumbs down, Daniel, bad take. So that's part of the game. Like, if you're not comfortable sort of saying, like, I'm cool if I look wrong. I'm cool if other people disagree with me. Like, I just need to follow my own logic. I need to follow, the data I see. That's part of investing. And so if you have trouble sort of separating yourself from the crowd, especially when they're going, boo, you stink, it's going to be a tougher journey for you if you constantly, oh my goodness, what do they have to say? Like, part of the way I'm personally wired is I'm like, okay, it's these criticisms, I don't agree with them. But let's actually get back into some of these criticisms in just a moment, particularly that Amazon one, because I see that come up over and over again, because a lot of people love to think about those stocks that can go up hundreds or thousands % over time. And that, in all honesty, is what I'm looking for on this channel. So then, what actually happened in the last few hours, where the SEC is charging the SPAC, the sponsor, the merger target, the CEOs of both the SPAC and the merger target for misleading disclosures ahead of the proposed business combination. This is a big deal. This is the SEC showing their teeth. I personally love to see it. I think this market, particularly the SPACs we've seen, have gotten too outrageous. There's been too much lack of disclosure. There have been cases where SPACs will say, hey, look at this great company, we're diversified, and oh, we're diversified with 2 customers. Literally things like that are just strike me as kooky dukes. And so I'm looking at this. I'm very glad to see the SEC cracking down. Big thumbs up from me. And so what exactly is going on? And the question is this Icky or Untouchable? Because there's a fine line between Icky and Untouchable. Icky, I would say, is, Michael Burry, he loved to talk about finding icky investments where things were just people like, ugh, I can't invest in this. Like, it's too disgusting. And Untouchable means like, hey, no matter what, I can't personally invest in this. Like, it's crossed too many red lines. Like, there's no way. Now, Michael Burry's obviously done very well with some of his investment bets. A lot of people know him for The Big Short, but the reality is he was a fantastic investor before The Big Short bet, looking at individual stocks, looking at things with that ick factor that worked out very well. So is this icky or untouchable? And so reading into what went on in terms of the SEC press release, they talk about how the SEC today announced charges against Special Purpose Acquisition Corporation Stable Road Acquisition Company, its sponsor, its CEO, the SPAC's proposed merger target Momentus, and Momentus' founder and former CEO, Mikhail Kokorich, for misleading claims about Momentus' technology and about national security risks associated with Kokorich. The SEC's litigation is proceeding against him, against whom the SEC filed the complaint in the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia. Everyone else, other than the former CEO, is effectively settling, including paying penalties of $8 million, and the SPAC sponsors are forfeiting the founder's shares that it stood to receive if the merger scheduled to go through in August of 2021 is approved. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, this is probably untouchable at this point. When you look at, like, you're thinking, wait a second, like, the CEO of this company was making misleading claims. Like, how bad was it? And so according to the SEC's settled order, Kokorich and Momentus in early stage, once again, I already mentioned that it was this satellite delivery platform in space, repeatedly told investors that it had successfully tested its propulsion technology in space when, in fact, the company's only in-space tests had failed to achieve its primary mission or objectives or demonstrate the technology's commercial viability. So I'm looking at this, and this is now, you've crossed one red line too many, because if you have, the CEO saying this, then everyone else that hears them, yeah, if they didn't come forward, they're effectively implicit in this, in my opinion, as well. So no matter what sort of degrees you have, it doesn't matter. This is, people love to look at some sort of authority bias. Oh, look, he's got this amazing engineering or physics degree. Doesn't matter. Here it is. Clearly, doesn't matter, who you're affiliated with. You clearly crossed too many red lines. The order finds that Momentus and Kokorich also misrepresented the extent to which national security concerns involving Kokorich undermine Momentus' ability to secure required governmental licenses, i.e., it was unlikely that they would get the government licenses essential to actually doing business. So, like, this is just ridiculous. This whole thing is a major meltdown as you're seeing it. I mean, prior to this, they also had announced that they were cutting the deal and doing a lower valuation. This is just completely on fire, and effectively, dumpster fire as I'm looking at it, and effectively saying that, hey, Stable Road didn't actually do any due diligence with Momentus and didn't really look at the documents that Momentus sent to them. And so I'm just like, okay, this is untouchable. And honestly, this reminds me a bit of Charlie Munger, one of my investment heroes, life heroes, as he talks about how you can't make a good deal with a bad counterparty. And I think as you see this going on, it's just not worth even getting involved. And that is one of the lessons I feel like is worth considering as you look at this Momentus SRAC stock, the Stable Road Acquisition Company. What are some of the other lessons that are worth considering? Let me do a quick plug first, though. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Daniel. You're watching Unrivaled Investing. This is a channel looking for potential multi-baggers, types of stocks that could potentially go up hundreds or even thousands of %. So if you enjoy learning about those, please make a point of subscribing. If you're already a subscriber, I do appreciate the thumbs up. And if you want to follow my personal journey as I'm looking for potential multi-baggers, go to unrivaledinvesting.com. And first week of the month, I call out my portfolio. During the month, I call out what I'm buying and selling. And then once a month, at least once a month, I'm calling out one of these potential multi-baggers that I'm looking at and usually will have bought for myself. And so if that's the type of thing that's interesting to you, check out unrivaledinvesting.com. And the reality is just finding one potential multi-bagger can change your life journey. So let's think more about what are the lessons you could have learned, as we look at Momentus. And the first one is, I go back to that comment about like, hey dude, you don't have the vision, man, that you wouldn't have been buying Amazon because you don't have the vision and you don't understand the potential. And so I think the first lesson here is find businesses that are actually proven, that are already scaling. And so like the example with Amazon is actually perfect because Amazon has been around for literally decades. And you as an investor could have done really well investing in it at several points. And so I would say the key element from learning from Amazon is it's like, well, wait a second. Like, watch them execute month by month, year by year, quarter by quarter, and sort of say like, well, are you actually delivering? Are you actually building a business model that's worth learning from? Is this actually scaling up? And so when you have a company that's like, oh, here's a really nice pipe dream, and it's like, well, wait a second, like you're not proving that you're actually delivering yet. And so that's where I think a lot of investors are, admittedly going to be in a world of pain with this one. Because this got bid up to like $30 a share, I believe. There's people who are like, woohoo, this is a great idea, but everyone there, there's a lot of loss that investors are experiencing. And so I think this is a perfect example of focus on things that are already executing. Look at something that's already taken market share, already growing at a good clip. Because if you're growing, it's like, oh, okay, you have product market fit. As an investor, you can just ride on like, hey, let's just bank on you getting to scale. Like you've proven with Amazon, you've proven you can do books. Can you do other things? Let's watch you scale up. Let's watch this play out. And so here you didn't even have that proof. It was proof of concept that they themselves were lying about. So that's obviously one. Now a lot of investors do like the VC space, which is like, hey, you don't even have product market fit yet, and could I get 20 to 30x returns? I think that the example with Amazon and several other actual multi-baggers is you don't even have to get in at this VC stage when a company is still pre-product market fit. You can find something that has fit and it's just about scaling. That's the key lesson here. What's another key lesson for investors to consider? It's all about risk reward. A lot of folks looked at this and they're like, oh man, Daniel, like if they succeed, this has like 30x upside. This could be like 50x upside. And I'm just like, even if that's the case, the probability of that happening still strikes me as too low. I like to use a hypothetical framework, but I always overlay that framework in terms of my own, do I pull the trigger on this with what's the probability that they succeed? What's the odds that this actually blows up? And so as I looked at it, I was like, yeah, you could buy a lottery ticket, but you're still most likely going to lose money, as most lottery tickets do. You would do better off focusing on that first lesson of finding something where it's about, hey, we have product market fit. We've proven ourselves. We've proven our unrivaled value proposition. Now it's just about gobble, 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 gobbling up market share each month, each quarter, executing and growing. So then the next one is like, another key lesson, and this I see these types of comments on a regular basis where they go like, Daniel, but this company's so cool. Cool factor should be given zero weighting in your portfolio, because the reality is there have been plenty of really uncool companies that have delivered exceptional shareholder returns over time. Whether or not you're a garbage collector, or even going back to the Amazon example, you start off as a bookseller, an online bookseller. So I would say coolness, zero factor. Focus on, I would say, the key aspects. And for me personally, and the name of this channel is, are you unrivaled? Are you doing something special? And have you proven it? Have you proven that you're unrivaled? Can I see it in the numbers? Can I see it in the sales? And if you're unrivaled, I'll see it in the sales. I'll see it in, oh, the market's growing at 5%. You're growing at 20%, 30%. You're taking share. you're probably unrivaled. Could I bank on this in the quarters ahead? Anywho, I hope this video has been helpful for you thinking about, like, hey, Momentus, what are the lessons shareholders, speculators could have learned from this? And look, for all those speculators that are like, oh man, this really stinks, I'm sorry that you're going through this. This is a painful experience. But the reality is, the reality is, whatever pain you're experiencing now, hopefully, I think the productive thing to do is to take it and say, hey, I'm going to channel this into a learning experience so that way future mistakes like this can be channeled into, I'm going to find these unrivaled companies. I'm going to find these companies that can potentially compound for years at a time. And maybe it's also about portfolio allocation, where maybe I don't make big bets on things that haven't proven themselves. Maybe I make a 2% bet or a 5% bet, smaller bets on things where it's like, yeah, I like the story, I like the valuation, but you know what? I need to see some execution. And I regularly do that. Like, oftentimes for my potential multi-baggers, I might buy a 2 to 3% position and say, hey, I like this company, I like their execution, I like their valuation, I just need to see some more execution. I need to see proof. I need to see more proof that this is unrivaled. And to see, let's see them start delivering. And the reality is, just finding one company that can, go up 500, 1,000%, that does change your journey. That does change your investment portfolio. So that is worth considering. If this video has been helpful to you, please make a point of subscribing. If you're already a subscriber, I do appreciate that thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching.